Hey, so I wanted to tell folks about an application that I've been working on that I'm pretty excited about. Uh, this is something called rectangular file, which, if any of you have heard of the expression of throwing something in the circular file, you'll understand why a rectangular file might be better, as in, hopefully, not garbage. So, uh, the idea behind this, I guess, came out of using Boox's tablets and being really excited about the fact that they can do full text handwriting search through your documents, and significantly less excited about the fact that when you use the full text handwriting search, it does not actually keep the index of all of your stuff that it builds. And so it starts over every single time. So, like, yeah, when you have even the Snapdragon 855 in, say, a Note Max, right, or a Tab XC, which is the fastest system on chip ever put into an e-ink device, we should really tell you something because that chip is from 2019. Like, even that is going to be pretty dang slow when it comes to actually trying to run the search and produce some, useful results. So my idea was, okay, well, we can get the thing to dump PDFs of your notes into some network location, right? You can do that with Google Drive. You can do it with Dropbox. It turns out you can also do it with WebDAV, which is the transfer protocol, file access protocol, etc., that underlies an open source cloud storage system called Nextcloud. I've been running Nextcloud for about 12 years. So, I was like, I can at the very least like put stuff in there, and take advantage of that somehow. I'm not sure how. I'd been doing it since I got these things, and I was never really clear on what I was going to do with those PDFs. I guess I was thinking of them as kind of a, disaster recovery plan. Like, oh no, everything caught on fire and exploded or something, right? And then I have to put together the pieces or whatever. But I really did want some better way of dealing with and using all of those things. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to build it myself. So what this application does is it goes to any network location with a bunch of PDFs in it that you give it, and it will run those PDFs through its vision language learning model. And in this case, it's a Qwen 2.5 VL3B instruct. And so it'll run your files through that, and basically, the prompt for it right now is pretty simple. It just says, please transcribe, what you see here into text from handwriting as accurately as possible, taking into account things like line breaks and whatever. Okay. So it does it. So it goes from PDFs in the folder. It preserves information about what device it came from, etc. All the other kind of metadata that you can kind of pick up from the thing, and it takes those files, makes a JPEG out of them, puts it into the learning model. The learning model generates text, and then you can search on the text and do other kinds of interesting things with the text. So I'm about to do a demo of that to show you guys what it can do, and mostly I'm also hoping that you've got ideas for what to do with this next. This was originally conceived as something for Boox products, but there's no reason it has to be limited to that. Anything that can dump PDFs of your notes into anything. You could use this with OneNote. You could use it with whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Is going to be good for doing this. So, without further ado, here's the demo. So here we are. This is running on my development server, which is actually over in the next building. It's nothing crazy. It's honestly, a couple generations old. CPU wise. CPU is not super important for this application, but it is a Ryzen 3800X with a RTX 5060 Ti with 16 gigs of RAM in it. I just bought that card, but I had been developing this application with an RTX 2060 with only 6 gigs of RAM. For that, I had to basically restrict it to only doing one document and running one model at a time, which was fine. That worked. But I wanted to see how I could push it and how, you know, fast I could get it to go with the 350 some odd, you know, notes overall that I've got coming from the current state of my, you know, Boox e-ink tablets. So, yeah, let's dive into it a little bit. So this is your home, you know, screen that just shows you, okay, you know, here's everything that we've processed. You can see all of these are badged with the green completed thing. Basically, as soon as a file comes into the intake directory, it gets you know, pulled in. It gets handwriting recognition done on it, and then you know, presents that data that it discovers into the database that underlies this. So, so everything here is completed. All of those files, I think, on the 5060 16 gig took like about 35 minutes, I think, to process, something like that. So not too bad, right? Like, it actually did churn through it pretty well. It was running 3 instances of the application at the same time, basically. Gunicorn does that by itself. You just tell it, yeah, you know, give me 3 processes, and it just manages the multiprocessing by itself, which is pretty damn slick, honestly. So yeah, that all works great. So if I go into one of these documents, you can see what we look at. So here's the actual handwriting, right? The from the graphic. Basically, what happens is when the PDF comes into the system, it gets converted into a JPEG, and then the JPEG gets downscaled, and then the JPEG then gets submitted to the recognition engine, which is currently Qwen 2.5-VL 3 billion tuned for instructions, which is something I just got from Hugging Face. So this all, you know, the handwriting recognition here is pretty good. Something I'm probably going to add next is the ability to correct typos. That won't result in better training of the model, because that would require more horsepower than I think I have access to, or I'm realistically going to have access to, which is fine. I just want to make sure that, you know, when I see something, it makes sense. That's all. So, for example, you could understand how it got some of these things wrong, right? Like, you can see there is a specific archive scale that was supposed to say active scale, but like, I don't have the best penmanship, so yeah. And you know, the thing is, for the most part, this can all be this can all be like useful, I guess. And you know, you're gonna find the keywords you're looking for, basically, in the future, even though McHaddles is not a word. At least I don't think it is. What the hell did I say there? Yeah, metadata. Okay, see, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so here's all those words, and if I scroll up and down inside here, I can see that, right? There's all the stuff that it recognized, which is great. So this works remarkably well. I'm very happy with how this came out. I don't know why, for the most part, they have like a kind of like a big where is it? There's like all of this like space first. I'm not sure why it does that, but it you know, functionally doesn't matter, so I mostly ignore it. You know, and it'll just show you the text here, both pages. It'll just show you the images if you ask it to do that. So that's all handy. So one of the things that this will do is it will figure out multiple folders inside of your intake directory, and categorize things accordingly. So if I go in here, right, you can see there's folders from every device that I have used, and that I've kept notes from, right? So here's the one for the Go 10.3, one for the Go 7, Note Air 4C, Note Max, Tab Mini C, Tab Ultra C Pro, right? And when you look at it from a Boox device, if I open any of these on, say, the Tab Mini C, right, what I'll see is Moffat personal samples videos. Or actually, no, I'll see the current state. You don't actually see the current state here. The current state is actually more like Moffat personal, not a professional, which is the name of my YouTube channel. I got rid of random. I got rid of, no, I actually still have samples. I got rid of videos, I think. Yeah. But, you know, I did a bunch of reorganizing, but it puts them and it leaves them. It doesn't do reorganizing after it does an export. The Boox OS doesn't reorganize things after you do an export if you then move them around later. It just dumps them in once and that's it, right? That's of course referring to the like automated export feature that is built into the Notes app in Boox. So, you know, you tell it, yeah, go ahead, you know, export every time I do, you know, a note and save it, it gets written out to this location. In this case, this is a WebDAV server because it is Nextcloud. So in this case, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll write it out to Nextcloud, and then after it gets written to Nextcloud, you know, it gets picked up here. Basically, what I did is I just mounted the Nextcloud folder, Nextcloud directory, in this, you know, in this VM, so that it can access it. So if I go here and I look at right, I've got two things. You don't have to set it up this way, and I'll explain it in the documentation. But I've got two things mounted here. So there's one here that's just Onyx, right? So this is the default name of the export directory that Booxes create, and then rectangular file is where all of the other stuff sits. So if I go in here, you know, you can see, so debug images is where it keeps the images that it generates, that are then turned into, you know, PDFs, not PDFs, but turned into recognition fodder, basically. And if you do it this way, you can also have documents in here. But again, I just set the paths to be something else. That's you know, not a big deal. And then CoinCache is used by the AI engine, basically for, you know, new versions of the model or whatever. It's where the model, it's basically where the model lives. And then pdfindex.db is the, you know, actual database where all of the text is kept and all of the analytics are done and blah, 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 blah. So if I go back out here, you know, you can see, so this is what it creates via Nextcloud. So the Booxes all create, you know, a folder named after themselves, and then if you go into it, right, there's like reading notes and notebooks, and yeah, there's everything, right? So this is good. This works well. Actually, I'll just leave this open. Okay. Cool. So that's one thing. Search is remarkably powerful. I'm very happy with how this came out. If I search for example, this, I get this, right? So here's everything where it says collaborative, right? So here's this document, for example, right? So I can go immediately back to that and go look at what I was talking about, right? So here's the strategy document from last year. So I can look at that now. And it does, you know, recognition, and it even knows, like, I've got things in boxes, right? So here's scope of scientific C, right? And it says scope of scientific computing. That's interesting that it figured that out. but it did it inside the box, right? It didn't try to be like research talent scope of timeline 3 to 5 years, scientific C. It didn't do that, right? It didn't just kind of limit itself to what's on the lines. It does have some intelligence with respect to looking at bounding boxes and figuring out, oh, okay, this person meant to say this or meant to say this or whatever. So really, really, really handy. So I was talking about folders before, right? So if I go in here, here's everything that was written on the Note Max, in that Moffat folder, which is where I work. This is all the stuff related to that. So yeah, this works really well. I'm pretty happy with this. And as I said earlier, there's no reason that this couldn't work with anything that isn't Boox. This would work with anything that will drop PDFs of your notes into the data folder, and that's it. So this will work with Remarkable. This will work with Supernote. This will work with MobiScribe. It doesn't matter, right? You just have to have a way of getting files into the system. This last thing is kind of just as a technology demo to show kind of what we can do with the fact that we've got searchable access to all the text in these things now. So this is just what happens when you search, or not search, but the most common words that are in this whole collection of stuff, right? So I can tell it cross-device categories, which are basically my folder names, right? Professional, personal, Moffat, blah, blah. Or I can tell it devices, right? If I remember that something is specifically on, I don't know, the tab mini C, right? Cool. Now this is a word cloud of everything that was on the tab mini C. So pretty powerful. And I mean, this at the very least can be interesting for. Let's go back to this one. Okay, so this is someone that can be something that can be really interesting just for getting an idea of what all you've talked about and how important it was and how common it was, right? But mostly this is a technology demo. This is just to show there's a lot that we can do with this that lets you really turn your notes into actionable data. I'm always talking about that in these environments, but there's a reason for that. So not too many interesting things in settings right now. This is just how frequently it pulls for new files and what kind of files you'd like to add. I believe there's no reason that you couldn't introduce other kinds of documents, even stuff that's not handwritten. It doesn't care. It's just reading things. So if you wanted to dump a whole bunch of PDFs of other things in here just for the sake of having it to refer to, that would work fine. Yeah, so this is how it's beginning, right? I think one of the things I'd like to do with this in the near-term future is go through creating some more like links between documents, like automatically finding, oh, you talked about this topic in this one and this one and this one. Here's a list of, here's maybe a graphic representation of those things, of those documents and how they're connected together. So very similar to like PKM type stuff or Second Brain type stuff. So how can we link stuff together in this software? So I think there's a lot to do here. Another thing I'd like to work on implementing is telling it to look for certain symbols and call those out separately. So if for example it sees that something is inside of a box, maybe I could tell it, hey, at the end of your transcription, put, I don't know, a line or something, and then take the thing that was in the box and call it out as a to-do. And then we'll have that be, the way that you create to-dos in some, various ways. That's one possibility. I'm actually, one of the reasons why I'm posting this is because I'm hoping that people can give me ideas for other stuff that might be useful. And I'll be happy to accept pull requests as well as future requests. So yeah, so that's the demo.